Welcome to Whole Lot of Wolves, episode 25 of season 4. We're your hosts. I'm Joshua Buckley.
I'm Paul LePage.
Joining us from New York City, our main man behind the mic, Mr. Alex Patakis. How's it going, Alex?
It's good. Nice to see you guys.
Good to see you. And then over in Baltimore, with his Lord of the Rings flag proudly behind him, our social guy, Mr. Danny Paletti.
Hey, feeling good?
Feeling good, feeling recovered. And our guest tonight, one of our favorites from Tennessee Wolves, it's Justin Buznedo. How's it going, Justin?
Hey, good evening, guys. Glad to be here.
Yep, you got you. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about this later, but you're getting stuff planned for Fan Fest, right? For our
Working on it.
appearance?
Working
Okay.
on it. Yep.
I better have a good itinerary.
I'm trying, man. I'm trying.
All right, Paul. So there were 3 changes from the lineup that faced Manchester United on Thursday. We had João Gomez back in for Tommy Doyle. Aitnery came back in for left back for Doherty. And then Pablo Sarabia starting in place of Bellegarde. What were your thoughts on the lineup?
I was in agreement. I think it was harsh on Doyle. Seems his form's been so good, but it just seemed like that type of game that would suit Joe Gomez down to a T, and him and Lamina in the middle of the park. I think you really needed that. Out Nuri for Doherty was a no-brainer. It would have been harsh on Doc, but I would have done that on Thursday against Man United anyway. So that made a ton of sense. And when I saw Sarabia starting, I kind of had an inkling that it would be a good day, just because seems to be the type of player that performs better on the bigger stage against those teams. So having those three come in, it gave me a reassurance that they could do something.
Paul, we've got, Gomez and Doyle right now. Those two would seem to be competing for one spot. I kind of think Gomez is going to be the guy that we see on those top half of the table guys where we need more of an enforcer in there, whereas Doyle may be the guy that comes in for those bottom half teams that we really need to break down. What do you think about that?
Yeah, possibly. I just think we got the benefit of youth, and Doyle, I think being younger, he's still learning. He's still coming into the team. He won't have certainly had a run of games like this in the Premier League. So I think we got some grace with him that he doesn't need to be starting every week. Now, I don't envisage really a pattern that they come in for different opponents, because I think there's some scope, even when it is those teams that maybe sit back a little, that maybe scrapping towards the foot of the table. There's still a role for the likes of Lamina and Gomez to play against those teams. And actually, I could see them giving a little bit more license when it is those opponents to break into the box some more. We've seen Lamina can take up that role. Maybe Doyle's not got that in his skill set, so I don't see it as one or the other.
Well, and then Justin, after losing the heartbreaker to Manchester United in stoppage time, Wolves fell down again 1-0 when they conceded in the 19th minute. Cole Palmer finished it off. Boy, that kid's going to be a force to deal with for a long time. And that brings up a no stupid question, right, Alex?
We got a no stupid question from Ed B. Chavez, who says, what's the key to Wolves starting better? We seem to constantly be falling behind early. So, Justin, you're tasked with fixing these slow starts. How do you do that?
I would say ever since I've been a fan of Wolves, that seems the thing, right? Historically, there's even times before I can even, during a workday, those midweek matches, I turn my computer on or something. It seems like we're down. My phone alerts me to it. I don't know. I don't have a solve for it. You want to say they come out aggressive, and they do that in some matches and not others. It just kind of seems to be that thing that happens, and we fall behind and the thing and jumping way ahead on it, not solving the problem. But one of the things I love about this club under Gary is we bounce back, and we seem to bounce back quickly in a lot of situations. And then we don't get behind, we don't get discouraged. And I feel like that under Bruno, I feel like that was really the
Oh yeah.
case. We would get behind, and you're like done. And I don't, this doesn't feel that way here. So I don't have an answer, but I'll say I don't feel discouraged about it when it happens that quickly.
It's
It
Bob
actually
Bradley-esque.
it actually felt on Sunday that we started much the better team as well. We were crafting the chances, and it really felt like a goal was coming the opposite end, and it was a fantastic through ball and a great finish. So sometimes against that quality opponent, you've just got to hold your hands up. But to have that immediate kind of comeback was pretty special.
Yeah, even the announcers before that goal were commenting how Wolves were bringing it to Chelsea. There was definitely no fear at all in the game plan. So you could have thought maybe Wolves are going to have a hard time recovering here, falling down early again. Not so fast. João Gomez got the ball in midfield, which, God, he was everywhere in this contest, and carried it to the edge of the penalty area. He laid it off to Cunha, and he scored. Deflected shot, but it still scores. Alex, like, that was pretty exciting to immediately get back in this game.
Yeah, it was. It was a great response, I think, from them, and everything Justin said is dead on. I don't think they ever get discouraged, even trailing late at United. Just to João Gomez winning the ball, like I had been, I think we all had been so impressed with Tommy Doyle, and I think a lot of us had him pegged as man of the match for quite a few of those games that João missed. But I have to say, like, what a way to burst back onto the scene. It's also like just about was the 1 year anniversary of him joining the club and that video dropping. Um, and I was a little worried going into this one, just looking at the differences between the Chelsea team that we faced on Christmas Eve when we beat them, because they're a very different outfit with Enzo Fernandez and Moises Caicedo in the midfield. And Gomez was not only like up for that challenge, but far exceeded it. Like, I don't know how he's always contorting his body and making so many damn tackles. Like, this guy is so relentless. Like, I'm at the point now where just like I only want Brazilians if what we're gonna get is Cunha and Gomez all the
Yeah,
time.
right.
Like, these guys have motors like no one else. So that was really awesome. And honestly, like, you don't necessarily see him aside from when his debut when he scored that goal with a lot of offensive output. I thought it was really cool that not only did he win the ball back, and Neto kind of, played a little bit of a part in that too, I guess, but kind of, carried it out himself, carried the ball down the field himself. He's not always someone who's getting forward. I think we see more of that from Lamina than him. So that was really nice to get some offensive output from him as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Brazilians are known for being those flair guys, and these two that we have are just they do dirty, dirty work and get it done. It's good stuff. Danny, you'll have to tweet out that heat map for João Gomez. I mean, it was just unreal.
That's wild. It's
Um,
looks like a lasagna.
yeah, it was good stuff. And so right before halftime, Neto got a nice little cross in there to Aitneri, very FIFA-esque goal.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'd agree, Alex. And the shot was deflected in for an own goal. Boy, at that point, you kind of thought Wolves are in this game and they're going to win it, right, Danny?
I mean, there was no other way at that point. I mean, I still, it's impossible to watch without nerves, but at the same time, it's the same kind of fight back we sort of saw against Man United, except like Paul said, we sort of started the more dominant team. And it became obvious from that point because that was sort of the one that fully exposed their left side, our right side, that this game plan, I don't think it showed that they didn't have an answer to that game plan. That was the one where Dawson sort of pings it out to Semedo, and then he puts it down the line to Neto, and then the rest of the goal happens from there. But it's just Chilwell and Thiago Silva they couldn't handle that. They didn't want any part of Neto running at them and Semedo running behind. It's just it was all going downhill from there.
Yeah, we also got a no stupid question as it was related to this goal that I'll throw back at you, Danny. It also came with a visual, which is really cool. But Drew emailed us at hello@wholelotofwolves.com. He sent in a picture alongside his question with his son, who is wearing his Matheus Cunha away jersey the red one to church underneath a sport coat. So a tip to both Drew's son's style and taste in favorite players. But his question was, what was different with the deflections? Seems that Cunha was credited with the goal, but Eight Nori's went down as an own goal.
Yeah. Well, first of all, his son has to keep wearing that Cunha jersey because if that is what caused the hat trick, then we need it.
With the suit jacket.
Yeah, with the suit jacket, there's only one formula that works that we know of right now. As it goes to the own goal, it's like slightly different depending on what stats which like group is keeping the stats. So it might vary between the Premier League or FPL or Opta or whatever, but usually the case is that if the original shot was on target, then they call it a goal by that player. If the original shot was not on target, then they called it an own goal. And I'm sure that there's something slightly subjective to it. Like, what if you put in a really deep cross that was clearly never meant to be a goal, but it was technically on target? They probably still call that an own goal. But I did actually, because of this question, go back and look, and it does, I would say, look like Eight Nori's shot is going to go wide of the far post. I couldn't swear to it because the deflection happens really fast, but I assume that that's the reason for the difference.
Pretty crazy. And then it was Neto again, Paul, in the second half. God, Chelsea back line had no answers for him. He got another breakaway and crossed it to Cunha, who smashed it home in the 63rd minute. I mean, that was just beautiful from those two who are really on top of their game right now.
It reminded me of all of the times that I've been shit scared of the opponents coming to Molineux, because you had
Yes.
all of these players that could absolutely tear you to shreds, and now we've got them. It was just like unbelievable. If the right wasn't going to get you, then the left one was. So it's just, and that's what, like, it kind of sums up Sunday, and more so it sums up the season, that this wasn't plucky little Wolves coming to Stamford Bridge and coming away with a
Absolutely
plucky
not,
win and a lucky win and a couple of deflected goals. We bossed that game, totally. And it's not for the first time either. And we've shown that throughout the season. And we could be totally on the cusp of something special, because we've got those performances in our repertoire now. We've got the squad, we've got the team dynamic, we've got everything that's going for us well is going in that direction. So if it continues like Sunday, then there's only one direction we go in.
And there's a no stupid question about Neto, right, Alex?
Yeah, there is. Speaking of his quality, Wolves Whisperer wrote in asking, is there any situation where you could see Neto staying past this summer? And what's the ideal club you'd like to see him play for? Obviously, other than Wolves.
I think there is a path for him to stay, and I think you only have to look at Ruben Neves to see it. Ruben Neves thought he was leaving. Nobody matched the evaluation or the valuation that Wolves had, so they kept him, and he still had a long contract. Now, Neves was great, didn't pout at all. I don't think that Neto would be a pouter. You never know. I could see him saying, though, Paul.
I think what would encourage him to stay is twofold. First one would be some European football exposure, regardless of competition. And the second one may be, if we get that, his recent injury record may give us some grace, that we've got that incentive, that we got European football, you'll be under the spotlight. We've backed you, we've supported you through some pretty big injuries, even this season, like missing, 8 games? That's a fair chunk of the season. So I think if they could put something together, combining those two in a gentleman's agreement to say, give it one more season with that scenario, it could be an incentive for him to stay.
And Justin, also with the World Cup just 2 years away, maybe Wolves can pitch, hey, you're going to get a lot more playing time here, which is going to impress the Team Portugal brass.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think minutes and exposure is huge to it. I think that the back half of that question I was keying in on is who would we want to see him, and it's nobody we'd want to play. You can go play go play somewhere else. Go sign for some big club somewhere else. I don't want that guy running down our line coming after us. That would just hurt. It's watching some of these other guys we've kind of grown real fond of the past few years coming after us. It's, like Jota and all those guys. It's no fun to watch that happen.
Yeah, that is good. But Paul, where do you want to see him? You want to see him out of the EPL? I'm sure we'd all
Yeah.
agree on that, right?
Out the EPL, but in the Champions League and probably Paris Saint-Germain. If we've
Yeah.
got any type of
Yeah.
like handshake agreement with them, I think some of their squad players and reserves could make a nice make weight or two within that deal as well. So
That's a good
Man,
call.
Neto will be loved by the ladies in Paris. He better watch out there. All right, then Justin Cunha completed the hat trick. He earned a penalty, boy. I was a little worried VAR was gonna pull that one back. Maybe got a little lucky, kind of like the one against Manchester United. But VAR kept the penalty and he converted in the 82nd minute. Boy, that was the first hat trick for Wolves since Diego Jota against Espanyol in the Europa League. And also the second ever Premier League hat trick for Wolves since Jota against Leicester City. I mean, we've talked a little bit here about was Cunha living up to the price tag. Now you're talking, is he underpaid?
Well, with the FPP stuff, let's not bring up underpaid, overpaid, any of that stuff. Let's be real
This is
careful as
true.
we talk through that. Yeah, man, it was fun. I honestly did not realize those stats, the hat tricks till I read them after the game, that had been that long, and it was the second one. It was kind of mind blowing, but I'd say very passionate about a lot of guys on this team. But man, if there's a guy that at the beginning of the season you saw him make runs and not finish and get so close to putting things away, and to watch him get a match where he's able to like finish it off and get the hat trick, it was really cool. And just I think the passion in the fan support was there for him, but I think it's mutually grown for him back towards the fans as well, which has been amazing to see. So I couldn't be happier for a dude. The only thing that had been cooler for that is if it was a Molineux to get that at home. But I don't mind him doing that in front of some opposing fans, especially a Chelsea group. So,
I don't know.
yeah.
In the second half, it sounded like it was at Molineux.
It did, yeah, fair. Good
Yep.
point.
Alex?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to Justin's point, like I think he was making some of these runs and maybe not finishing early in the season, but I found it interesting, and we were texting about this a little bit in our podcast group chat about the athletic piece that came out. And one thing, I guess I don't know if it had been talked about quite a bit before this or not, and maybe I just missed it, but I thought it was interesting that in the piece in the Athletic that Gary O'Neill kind of tipped off his hand about Cunha coming to him and having like these one-on-one meetings, being like, how can I get in better scoring position? So it's clear that there was awareness on his end that like, and he even said in the post game, like, this is my job. I'm supposed to be scoring these goals. That he needed to be someone who was finishing for us. And if anything, like the relationship between O'Neill and Cunha, and the fact that like Cunha was Lopetegui's guy, but O'Neill is the guy who's actually unlocked him, and he's acknowledging that, is like one of the coolest things. Like, how good does that make you feel about your manager from a tactical perspective, that Diego Simeone and Julian Lopetegui had no idea what to do with this guy, and now he's doing things he probably never thought he could do in the best league in the world. I don't know. I'm just really excited about that.
Paul, I had a hot take after the game, and I want to know your opinion on this. I said if we had gotten a proper number 9 in the transfer window, one that we would have felt compelled to start, it would have hurt Wolves' style, because I feel like Cunha, the way he's able to just move along that front line, same around Neto, they're almost positionless up top. And I feel like if we had just that number 9 sitting in there, it may have taken away from some of Cunha and Neto's game.
I think so. If it was that signing that it was the marquee number 9 or focal point number 9 that had to start, I'd agree. But I just think when you add when Wang comes into the mix, the potential for all those 4 to start in some variation, it just whets the appetite. There is no space for that number 9. Which is fine. I'm a big fan of Cunha playing centrally. and I can see good stuff happening with any combination he plays with when it is that combination of a four. The only way I could see a genuine nine coming in would honestly be off the bench. And that would be in specific scenarios that you're chasing a game late on, and that's the tactical sub, or if it is that profile of number nine that can press, that's reported that O'Neill wants, then if they are hanging on to a game and it's someone that can drop back and defend a corner and those elements, but for starters, I'm totally fine at that fluid combination of who we've got.
Danny, how difficult is this offense to stop right now? Because it seems like those guys can move anywhere on the front. And then when Neto's bombing down the line, you could have Cunha hitting into the box. You could have Lamina making a run. Even Aït-Nouri, who at one point did line up at the 9 spot. I mean, it's so hard to stop.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head in the sense that that's the reason why we seem competitive against almost any team. There are very few teams in the Premier League that are set up to be able to defend so many different threats and also a very fluid system like that. Like you said, I mean, Aït-Nouri, I loved how advanced he was getting even before we started making the subs. That run that he made before Cunha's second goal opened up the space completely. And I hope and I assume that is specific instructions from Gary O'Neill. If you're already going to play this more advanced role and we're playing a back four when we're in possession, then make those runs into the box, because at the very least it opens up space for the others. And that exact play is sort of encapsulates what you're saying, where it's all well and good to have plans for the front three for Cunha, Neto, and Sarabia, Bellegarde, or Hwang when he comes back. But then all of a sudden you have a player bursting forward like João Gomez after winning it back, or Ryan Aït-Nouri in that play, and it just mucks everything up. And teams that are not very well drilled are going to struggle with that. And we saw obviously that a team that's struggling, has a lot of struggles of their own currently, really struggled with it. They couldn't handle it.
At this point, I'm half expecting Saw to just come out of nowhere and get a sitter on a Neto assist.
Every time Max Kilman dribbles it forward, I just think about that preseason goal he scored. And I was just like, oh, please do it. Go, just keep going.
Well, it was looking like a party, and then Chelsea did get one back, and so it was 4-2 on Thiago Silva's header, and they kind of alluded to it right before the 90th minute that, we're here in 10 minutes of stoppage time, and then that's exactly what the fourth referee held up. Justin, where did they come up with 10 minutes, and was it squeaky bum time for you?
It's Wolves with a lead, so it's only squeaky bum time for me. Unfortunately, I think
That's
it just
fair.
comes with the terror. We were up when we got up 2-1. I was like, we need a third, and then we got to 4, and I was like, okay, maybe I feel more comfortable now. And then they got the one back. You know what? I know they wanted to add more time. I don't know the math that they do sometimes, and maybe it's European math I don't understand or something to that effect. I understand there were a lot of goals in there or something, but I don't know. I saw 10 and I'm pretty sure I said something out loud in my house I shouldn't have said. That was
You better tell your son earmuffs. Earmuffs.
Yeah, I was gonna say I gotta look from the wife. Yeah, it was like one of those things. I was like, and she's like, I was like 10 minutes. So yeah, I don't know. You got me. It keeps it interesting for sure.
Paul, any idea? 10 minutes, really?
I was scratching my head. No serious injury, no time wasting. What is it that a goal that you get is 30 seconds or a minute at most after a goal? I'm sure it's 30 seconds. 30 seconds a sub, but then even then there was double substitution. So where 10 minutes come from, just baffling. And it certainly was squeaky bum time in my house, and even to that extent of that challenge that Kilman made on the block. It was just it still had everything happening. Mm-hmm. So it was still a relief to close it out, I must admit.
It felt like Chelsea made 8 substitutions. I didn't know what was going on there. Alex, as an American, me and you are still fairly new to everything here. Another thing I really like about Wolves, they don't go deep into the dark art books to waste time. I mean, there is going to be some gamesmanship here and there, but for the most part, they kept playing. Or two. They didn't park the bus, and they certainly didn't fake injury every 2 seconds like some of these teams. Brentford.
I was convinced there was going to be a fifth because Chelsea had clearly gone all out as they should with attacking intent. Even earlier in the second half, when they took Caicedo off, there was a clear difference. I was like, this can really turn into a thrashing. Because not only is he gone now, but Cole Palmer doesn't count as a midfielder, like in my mind, the way he plays for them. So it was really Enzo versus everybody. I guess Conor Gallagher was in there too, but either way, they were getting their asses kicked in the midfield, and then someone with a lot of bite had to come off. So they just go with what their squad is made up of, which is just a bunch of mediocre attacking wing players, like almost like a full 11 made up of them. Like Wolves can score 5 or 6. And I like that they do have that intent, Josh, because you were right. Like I thought that they saw that and they're like, maybe they're being a bit more defensive, but they know like they still want to counter quickly and get on the break, and Chelsea was there to be had. So I thought that was awesome. We really should have. Like Bellegarde, you got to finish better on that one. Like,
oh yeah,
you're trying to fight for playing time here, and if Lang's coming back, it's only going to be less opportunity for you. You got to bury those, man. Come on.
Paul. Without looking it up, do you know the math of how much Casado and Enzo Fernandez cost for Chelsea in the midfield?
200 million? Wasn't Enzo like 120 of it or something ridiculous?
It was 222 million.
Yeah,
Do you know how much our starting midfield cost?
like 20 million. Like take a
26 million, baby.
exactly. Like who looked like the World Cup winner on Sunday?
100%.
It's our young Brazilian. Like just absolutely dominated that midfield. So, if that's what the valuations are kicking around, then Jeff Shee will be rubbing his little hands together.
No, Jeff Shee needs to put those hands in his pockets, God damn it. I assume we're all going to say Cunha was man of the match. Any raising hands to say no? No, everybody says. If you had to pick somebody, Paul, other than Matheus Cunha to be man of the match, who is it?
He got mentioned briefly. I'm not going to go Neto because that is the second obvious.
Right. Okay,
But,
so no Neto and no Cunha.
No Neto, no Cunha. Honourable mention out of all of those. Oh, well, we can't even go Gomez as well because we talked about him so much. Forget all those three. They were 10 out of 10s. But Semedo was a 9 because he was brilliant down the right-hand side as well. And that was a great performance. Link up play down the right. That was a really good showing, and long may that continue as well because that was something special.
Justin?
Man, I didn't plan to go 4 deep on this question. You're throwing me off here. Yeah, I mean, I could see Semedo as well. I still can't get over. I don't think it's man of the match worthy, but I still can't get over the ball Dawson delivered on that ball.
Dawson was my
So
pick.
good.
Yeah, I was watching that again today, and I was like, that was just nice. Everything, the build up to that, and then that ball he put down the side. So I'll go him as my other one in that too, just because of that pass, maybe.
Alex?
Yeah, I mean, you could kind of have your pick. I mean, I think everyone on the pitch had a mostly great performance, but to your point, Josh, like Dawson was great. I thought Kilman was excellent.
Mm-hmm. He's
and
been
when
excellent
it was,
the last 2 games, really.
Yeah, and when it was squeaky bum time, that clearance he made when he was on the ground after making a ridiculous tackle in the penalty area, that also had me very nervous. Yeah, like remember when we were like, this guy can't be captain of Wolves? Like he's really grown into that role quite a bit.
Yeah, I'll jump back to that here in just a second. Danny, who was yours?
I mean, if we're just gonna keep rolling with honorable mentions, I'll give my honorable mention to Aït-Nouri. And I already said it, but that run for Cunha's second goal is emblematic of the work that he did the entire game, where he was doing a lot of really smart runs that was opening up space. And obviously we know his ability to carry us forward. So he also had a great game.
But again, what a difference a year makes with a player.
Oh my God.
On
Couldn't
one
get
hand,
in the team.
exactly. On one hand, you're talking about Lopetegui, and we owe him enough for picking out Cunha and saying this is the guy that I want to spend all the bucks and craft the team around. But this was the guy that also wanted to ship out Nuri away for like less than 10 million. So yeah, Gary O'Neill, man, what a job.
Yeah. So Alex, you mentioned Kilman, and we talked earlier about that Athletic article. One thing I thought was interesting how they talked how Kilman's grown into the captaincy role as far as, being a good example. But then they said Lamina and Cunha are the heartbeat of the team. Paul, just looking from the outside, that totally makes sense, doesn't it?
It does. It's got some parallels to me going back a few years to when David Beckham had the England captaincy. That he was never the baller and the shouter. That was purely on performance. And I think you get some parallels like that with Kilman's game. That's what you've started to come to expect. But similarly, like that England team, there was lots of characters within that as well. So if you've got that perfect balance and a good spine down the team, Kilman in the back, Lamina, then Cunha up top, then that's a real positive nucleus. So you don't really need that standout captain if you've got that solid spine. It kind of takes care of itself.
Justin, since you're here, I have to hit on this real quick. How many assists would Adama Traore have in Gary O'Neill's system?
Oh man.
Like 30 at this point, right?
I was gonna say, yeah, solid double digits. Solid double digits. That's where it's going.
And I was hoping for a late transfer thing there. That would have been nice.
It would have been.
And to wrap up this game, guys, this came right after really the first half against Manchester United, Paul, one of the worst halves of the year. They came back. Neto tied it in stoppage time and then gave up that heartbreaking goal. So they lost 4-3. How many squads? Is there a Wolves squad in the past that could lose like that and then fall down 1-0 on the road in London and come back and perform like this?
I don't think there is, because even with that Manchester United game, they were dreadful in that first half, and it was it could have been more, the two disallowed goals they had. We could have been going in at like 4 or 5 without a doubt. So just to show the spirit they did on Thursday night was admirable. Coming away from that with a point would have felt like a win, I think. And I generally thought that the spirit is that high, and we've seen it before, that never mind an equaliser, it would have been us who would have gone on and won that. It's that crazy. But to have that sucker punch of ultimately losing, having another tough opponent to go to, I just think it goes to show the team that's been crafted. And we aren't it's not looking like we're a bottom half team anymore. It seems like we're in and around the Manchester United, the Chelsea, the Newcastle, the Brighton, in that sector of clubs that, yeah, you might lose against Man United on Thursday. Could come on Sunday, bounce back and meet Chelsea. That's the type of performances this team's putting in.
Alex, I mean, what were you feeling after that Man United game going in? Did you think they had it in them to perform like they did against Chelsea?
No, but I think that's independent of the Manchester United result. I don't know that I would have thought that they could have gone to Stamford Bridge and scored four goals anyway. But it was pretty demoralizing, and I was more concerned about the fact that they played on a Thursday and had to come back on a Sunday, and they do have a thin squad, even though Arteta seems to think Arsenal has the thinnest squad. When you look at the amount of minutes that Matheus Cunha has been playing, we've talked about it at length, like the fact that he could come in and have a hat trick performance, like, and put in another ridiculous shift. Like, I didn't think that was possible. So I was worried that even from the team selection, we might have like a scheduled loss, like they call it in the NBA, like that we would have some key players resting. So I didn't think so. And then, you can go to a really dark place fast where you're staring like coming off the high of the Black Country Derby. You're staring in the face, like, now back-to-back losses after going so long unbeaten, and falling down the table to, back where I think most people feel like Wolves belong. But Like Paul said, they're playing more like a team that does belong where they are now, and that's in the first graphic when NBC does their highlights. I was so excited to watch Liverpool Arsenal, so that at halftime when they show the highlights and they show the live table, we don't have to wait the extra like 15 seconds for them to scroll down from 11 to 20. Wolves are right there, baby. So they belong. They're looking like they belong.
Danny, you're all over Twitter. Do you think that opposing fans are still going to be overlooking Wolves right now, or do you think everybody's starting to realize like how dangerous this squad is?
No, I mean, no one's going to want to play us. It's not necessarily because they think we're going to come dominate, like you're playing City or something. But I mean, it's just I think back to, the dull days of under Lodge and, the end of Nuno and a bit of honestly the Lopetegui away games. And it's just like you'd see those games coming up and that the teams that you're about to play aren't that good. Like, we'd be playing like West Ham or something. Or I mean, I guess a good example would be like Brighton coming to Molineux or something, or Crystal Palace, another good example where it's just like we never seem to play that well and we can't get back into a game. And this is just going to be devastating because this team, like, even if they're not entirely at it, they can score 2 or 3 goals even on an off day. And when you're a mid-table team, which is what we've been experiencing for the entire time that Wolves have been up with some brief exceptions, those teams just look so terrifying because it feels like anything can happen, but you can only focus on the bad things that'll happen, which is like utter embarrassment.
I think a lot of fans still look at Wolves and go, "Oh, they suck. They were going to be relegated." Like I have some Liverpool fans that are at my work and they're still like, "Oh, Wolves are crap." And it's like, we're 10th, guys. We've beaten some good squads out there. We have beaten Tottenham and Man City, who Liverpool has not beaten. I still think, surprisingly, we're still creeping up on teams. I don't think the teams themselves feel that way, but definitely the fans, Paul.
Yeah, I think there's that general bias and not looking so much on what's going down below. But that often works in your favor, and especially away from home, where we do seem to have that really good counter-attacking thrust to our game as well. I think that can come to bite a few teams on the backside if they're not prepared for it.
Danny?
Yeah, just to add to that point briefly, I think part of it is like, the attention is still on, oh, what a good job Gary O'Neill is doing, and like that frames it as like oh, this is like not that great a team, but Gary O'Neill's really working wonders. And I think it's only just starting to creep in that there are some special players in there, even if they're not like, I'm not expecting all these players to end up at, top 4 teams, players like Lamina or whatever. But it's funny, I was just listening to another podcast the other day and they were kind of coming up with like a starting 11 of like median players that are just, this is the football cliches podcast, but like, there's like, they're good players, but they're not bad and they're not amazing. And someone suggested Mario Lamina in midfield. And one of them was like, no, like, I think he's actually having like a really good season, but it was like telling that like, that was such an obvious answer, mostly due to his past probably. But I think that's like the way that the current team is, that like all the attention is on Gary O'Neill and Neto and now Cunha and Wang before he went away. But every other player, I think people see as like distinctly average. When like, okay, like we're still a mid-table team, but there are some very good role players within that team.
You know what we are? We're not a mid-table team. We are a fun to watch mid-table team, and that
That's right.
is exciting. All right, joining us once again to help us preview the next match against Brentford from the NYC Bees, it's Abhi Goyal. Abhi, we've definitely been seeing a lot of each other lately, huh?
Yeah, well, the good news is this is the last time this season, and then we have almost a year off.
So obviously we know what Wolves have done to you guys this form, but has it improved at all since the last time we met?
Yeah, I think actually this is going to be pretty solidly different from our last two meetings. There have been a few changes in form since then, for the better on the Brentford side. I mean, there's no way around it. The most obvious thing is that Ivan Toney is back. And I think something that I didn't realize I missed so badly is it's not just how dangerous he is in front of the goal, but he drops back pretty far. There's a lot of offense that he generates actually just by himself. And we've seen that these last two games that he's been back. I'm coming off of our game against Manchester City today, and there was a pretty cool goal in the first half, which was a long ball by our keeper Flecken to Mopé up front. And if you watch the replay, you'll see Tony's real smart. He's just holding back Ake, preventing him from going up for it. So, you know, those kinds of things where it's just like he's so smart at knowing where the goal's going to come from, even if it's not from him. But we've also got quite a few guys back from injury. We do currently have 3 players on international duty right now. Well, it remains to be seen who's going to be back in time for Saturday. Maybe they'll need some recovery time. So we do miss them, but it's still a much more solid lineup than our last two meetings. And I think if anything is hurting our form is the fact that a lot of the players haven't had time together in a while, and we're looking a little unorganized on both sides of the ball.
Do you expect any specific approach? Seems you'll be away from home and it is a league game again, Abhi.
Yeah, so we've been sitting back pretty far, maybe to our chagrin sometimes. So that part will remain consistent. We've been starting 3 at center back for most games, and I suspect that'll be about the same. And then I think it's going to be a lot of plays of the middle, kind of long balls up to the front, and then I think hoping that the forwards do their thing. We are still a little a little weak along our sidelines, so our left back, right back, Reguilon Arloni is just settling back in, and we don't quite have we don't quite have anyone at right back who's of the same quality. So we maybe don't have the personnel to do solid midfield plays. So I think the priority is just to move the ball up quite quickly from the back and to sit back when we are defending.
And if you know, Ivan Toney was to bet on this game, what's going to be your score prediction, and will he score?
I would say, well, if it was me betting, I would put a good amount of money on Toney to score. And I think a good score prediction would probably be something like 2-2 away from home with a fairly unorganized team on our side. I'd like for it to be a lot better because we have a pretty rough run of games after that. And this might feel like our last chance to get points for a while, but that feels a little more realistic. But I think you can bet one of those 2 goals from our end would be from Toney.
Thanks, Abhi. Appreciate you making the time to come on.
Yeah, thank you. And we'll see you Saturday.
All right, guys, that was the Abhi Goyal joining us from the NYC Bees. Justin, do you feel like this matchup against Brentford is going to be a lot different just because Tony's now in the lineup?
Obviously it's going to play a part to it, right? You have to with a guy of his caliber and ability. I feel better we're at home. It's, you know, I think that always helps. And anytime you play another team, no matter the sport, so many times in a short window, it just kind of gets weird, I feel like. So I think that plays into it too. But yeah, obviously I think there's another element, even if it's from a skill level, even if it's like how can I word this? Like just the way that Brentford will feel coming into the match with him included, probably kind of that just feeling they'll get from it. I think that could be something to it too that we'll have to contend with.
Danny, is there any fear of a letdown after just the emotions of the last few weeks?
Definitely. I mean, I think there's definitely a chance that the the Chelsea game is still overshadowing it. But luckily we have a whole week to prepare, and I think that's going to help a lot because the players will have almost certainly gotten a day off on Monday, and then they're going to go back in and train and hopefully come up with. I mean, it's funny. I don't know that Gary has ever said that he comes up like with these bespoke systems for each game the way that he did for Man City and whatever, but it does feel like the kind of game where you do that because, as Justin said, like you play a team so many times, it's like you have to throw them some kind of curveball, even if it's like kind of meaningless, like in the end, like not that big of a deal. But it's just like, I don't know, both teams are going to have figured each other out in so many different ways, and you have to do something to knock them off their stance a little bit. So hopefully that takes a lot more of the focus this week in their preparations.
That said, Alex, I think if Wolves score the first goal, they're gonna roll. I don't think Brentford can recover going down just because of what's happened these last 3 games.
Yeah, I tend to agree. We already did the hard part. We went and scored 4 goals in London, a place that now all of a sudden I don't hate as much. Over the past couple of weeks, like if we carry this momentum we have now, like let's imagine you get a Cunha goal. He's already talked about on the team's post game interview that you can find on YouTube, his celebration and how he's gonna have to break that one out again. Like if he goes and he does his like new celebration, although I guess it's not as fun when it's in your own stadium because you're like, but I mean, maybe he will own Molyneux too. I could see that atmosphere turning into something that is too much for Brentford. And, as we just heard Abby say, like they're missing some guys too. Like, I mean, we are sure, but, like, is anyone really thinking about Wayne coming back right now? Are we like clamoring for that because we absolutely need him? Like he's gonna have to earn his way back into the team. That's insane to say about someone who scored double-digit goals for Wolverhampton Wanderers.
It's crazy.
Like,
That's kind of the way it was with
nuts.
Neto too. I mean, obviously we missed him, but not to the extent that it was detrimental to results, Justin.
It's a good point. I mean, we've had so many players kind of in and out for some of the guys who've been around for a couple of years. And unfortunately, like the Jimenez when he was down for a long time, or other folks that those injuries, I think it's just adapting. But I think it all circles back to the approach from the manager. And we just have a manager who believes in each of the individual players and what they can do and kind of piece and play with those elements so well. I think it comes back to that leadership. And I don't think, again, Lopetegui was a fantastic band-aid for what we needed it for, and Bruno was Bruno and stuff. But I think Nuno probably had a better way to do that when he could adjust with stuff when we had him, going back the few years I've been around. But that's the closest I can get to comparing it to that. And I think that's part of the reason why.
We will have Aitnery for these matches, which is going to be that nice little added twist. So let's look at the prediction standings here. Ooh, it was kind of a rough week for everybody. We all predicted Wolves wins, except for Todd. He predicted a draw against Manchester United, so we all lost. And Todd was the only one that picked Wolves to win on the road. So that leaves the guest spot now with
Devastating.
20 points. Boy, Justin, you're able to can add to that. I've got 18. Danny and Alex got 17, and Paul's still sitting there at 11, but that's okay. It can turn around. It can turn around. So, Justin, I'll have you start off here. What is your prediction for the Brentford matchup?
So I think it's going to be I'd love to see us get in front. I think it's going to be a weird match again because we've just played them multiple times in the past 45 days or whatever that works out to be. I've got 2-1. I think Wolves take it 2-1, but I think it's squeaky butt time towards the end of that. But I think we hold on and take the win.
Danny?
Yeah, well, that's what I had too, and I'm sticking with it. And I feel even more confident now because the guest spot is predicted 2-1, and the guest spot has been doing great. So, no, I think for all those same reasons, I think Brentford are going to come and stink out the place. I think they're not really going to want to be too adventurous, and especially if they get an early goal. So I think it's just going to be another weird cagey game until someone scores the opener, and hopefully it's us.
Alex?
Yeah, on that note, I think I'm a little bit scared of Ivan Toney coming into this team, but I also feel like they're working through a lot of things right now. I I'm gonna go clean sheet 2-0.
Oh
Ooh,
yeah.
2-0. I like it. Paul?
There must be something in the water because I've got a lot of positivity for some reason, and it's given me those vibes before that Everton game where it felt like whoever turned up we were just gonna beat comfortably and look really good doing it. So I'm gonna go the same 3-0.
That Everton game also came after a Chelsea win.
Ah, well, there you go. See,
There's something to be said about that too. Like, not for that one, but for this one, like an away win, most of the fans didn't get to experience it firsthand, and the first time they get to see the team is on Saturday, and they're going to still have that excitement. So.
Paul, you picked Everton to win that game 3-1, by the way. Just
yeah.
throwing
So there goes that theory.
I think Tony will get one, but I think it's going to be in garbage time because I think the Wolves are going to blast 2 in the first half and win this game 3-1.
Wow.
I think the Bees are going to get swatted after giving up the first one.
No Stupid Questions is presented by Esfuerzo Wines. Located just north of Santa Barbara, California, Esfuerzo Wines showcases passion and 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. So whether you're celebrating a Wolves victory or winding down after a day at work, let Esfuerzo Wines transport you to the heart of California's wine country with every sip. For a limited time, head to esfuerzowines.com and use the promo code WOLVES for a 15% discount on your wine purchases. This message is intended for those of legal drinking age. Do not drink and drive. Excessive alcohol consumption may be harmful to your health. If you or someone you know is struggling with alcohol abuse, please seek help. Esfuerzo Wines reminds you to enjoy their products responsibly and in moderation.
It's everyone's favorite time of the show.
That's right. It's time for No Stupid Questions. Of course, brought to you by Esfuerzo Wines, 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. EsfuerzoWines.com is the website. Go there. Use the promo code WOLVES. Get a 15% discount on your order. I'm imploring you. It's great wine. It's supporting a family business. It's good stuff. So thanks to them for sponsoring this segment. Thanks to everyone who wrote in. We did sprinkle them in throughout the show. We've got a bunch more, so we're going to blow through these. And we're going to start with Carl Bayless, who writes us on Twitter at WLWpod. The draw of having an elite manager in January last year helped us have a great transfer window. Even though Gary is doing an amazing job, do you think his lower profile will make it less likely to attract similar quality in future windows, even if the purse strings do get loosened?
Well, I think we're done with the big name players, right? The only one that's worked out is Cunha. All the others are kind of smaller name, better bargains. So I don't think that necessarily kind of plays to us. They're going to find guys that are younger and hungry and want to come to Wolverhampton.
I think what he's doing now, when you see the transformation of player from season to season, like the stats of Cunha last season versus this that's been on Twitter and circulated like that, Neto, Wang, that's gonna have resonance with players. They're gonna see that, and they're gonna see that this is a developmental opportunity. Are we going to be signing those Galacticos? No, but we are going to be signing those Brazilian under 23 players on the verge of cracking the national team, that profile of player, because they can look to those names and think, well, look what it's done for his game. Look how much he's propelled Gomez. Look how much it's put Cunha in the spotlight. So I think that's going to be a big draw. And I always think with O'Neill that, again, we're still not a million years removed of him playing in the league. So I've got a feeling that a lot of those players will be telling their peers, well, he's a player's coach. You know, he gets it. He understands it. He knows the league. He knows how to bring the best out of players. So I think that'll stand him in a good stead for this particular transfer strategy.
I think there's going to be a lot of wingers that want to come to Wolves too, looking at some of these numbers.
Hard to argue with the production there. Related on the Gary O'Neill front is another No Stupid Question that we got on Twitter from All Things Wolves. Will Gary O'Neill still be here in the summer if Wolves do not invest in new players? Oh God, I got to worry about this now.
Nah, he'll be here.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the inverse of the previous question, but it's just I mean, my hope is that, and this is truly what it has seemed for the past year, that, Hobbs is a straight talker. And so I know that there's been a lot of narrative, especially online, about like how the goalposts have been moved. This whole idea that, oh, he was confident we were going to get someone in and then we didn't get someone in. But I think as long as we're upfront about what the constraints are, about needing to sell or needing to invest in certain ways, then he will understand that. He's clearly been comfortable with, making do with what he already has, and he's done very well at it. And hopefully we will have one or two big sales in the summer. Not that I want to see Neto go, but it does make it a lot easier for them to then turn around and say, okay, who do you want? And now we're looking in a different market, like Paul said.
I would just add that I feel like even though I am a little worried that his tactical nous is going to make him a candidate for some big jobs, like I think some of the openings in the Premier League are going to be so big that he really isn't a good candidate for them. And that he is a smart enough person and humble enough person to maybe know that. Like, maybe you don't want to be the next guy to get fired at Chelsea. Like maybe it's not that bad to spend
I don't
another
know, pretty
couple
good
years at
paycheck
Wolves.
comes with it though.
Yeah, true. That is true. And we'll
I
probably
think you
see,
just have to look at Graham Potter. I
Yeah.
mean, he was considered the smartest manager at Brighton. He goes to Chelsea, gets let go, and now he's still on the unemployment line.
yeah.
O'Neill's a smart guy. I think he's going to stay here for a
Lopetegui would
fairly
fit in
long
at
time.
Chelsea.
Yeah,
Yes, he
Lopetegui
would.
at Chelsea.
He would fit in very well. All right, moving on to loyal listener and friend Stu from the Wolves fan cast, where our own Joshua Buckley has been making some frequent appearances,
Had
spreading
my nice peanut butter and jelly sandwich on there.
There you go.
Not only that, I need to say that it was an Uncrustable, which is not quite the same.
That is amazing, by the way, because they're already confused about peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and now we have frozen ones. They're like mass produced, like we can't even bother to spread the peanut
The
butter.
best was seeing the questions
ourselves.
on the side with people going, "Oh my God, is he eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich as they're coming through?"
Yeah, well, Todd and I were having fun in the comment section.
Anyway, Stu's question was about something that was spotted in the stands at Stamford Bridge. He says, "I've never seen this before. NFL hats and jackets, yes, but not a jersey. It feels a bit off, or am I going mad?" And the picture that he supplied us with is somebody wearing a Patrick Mahomes jersey in the crowd on Sunday for Wolves Chelsea. He said, "I can't remember ever seeing EPL shirts in the crowd at NFL games either."
No.
I don't really think so. Like there is a thing about random jerseys though, like at NFL games, that's actually the most annoying thing, which like I'm not wearing I'm not supporting either team. I'm just supporting, one player that has nothing to do with any of this. But I don't know that I've seen a ton of like EPL versions of that. Like, do you just show up to like Giants Eagles and like a Mo Salah shirt? Like, I don't really feel like we see that very frequently here. So I think Stu's right on about that. I don't know if you guys have any examples that counter that point.
I think the guy just had all his clothes organized by color. And he knew we were playing in red, and it was early morning when he was about to leave, and his eyes were a little bit blurry, and he just grabbed the red jersey and put it on, left the house, and then looked down. He's like, "Fuck, I've put the wrong one on."
Nobody will be able to tell on TV.
Or maybe he had his Wolves jersey lost in the mail, like mine.
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't want to knock the club, but it's certainly possible from my experiences as well. And Todd DeWitt, last week's guest host of this show and good friend, do you think there are any Wolves players that play Dungeons and Dragons together? A lot of discussion on Twitter or X or whatever you call it after this one. I don't know if any of you guys
here's a quick recap. Joe too got in on it, and he was pretty active on this. He thinks the Lamina brothers do, and we had to get the little one so that they can finish their quests.
That's
he thinks Neto likes puzzles. Sarabia looks like he plays.
There's nothing wrong with liking puzzles.
No, nothing at all. I love a puzzle. Sarabia looks like he plays D&D. he says Craig Dawson calls them all nerds, and Tommy Doyle watches quests on Twitch. He also feels that Kilman might be the DM.
See, I
And
think
that's not
Saw is
defensive
the I think
midfielder.
Saw is the dungeon master. What do you
Oh, I
think,
can see
Justin?
that. I can see that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I could also see him being like the most annoying party member who just like wants to do things that ruin the storyline. You're just like, come on, man. Like,
We have got an expert in our midst, though, with Andrew from Houston Wolves, who's on there as well. So he's brought NFL players together previously to play Dungeons and Dragons. So I think that sets a precedent that there could be some players within the EPL, and why not the Wolves?
yeah, why not?
Yeah. Why not? While we're typecasting, random thought that I had. Don't even know why I'm sharing this. I was watching when I was watching the game on Sunday, I looked at Jose Sa and I just thought he also looks like he could be in like the underground drag racing scene. Like I could really see him like for some reason being into that. I don't know why. But anyway, let's move
He'd
on.
be a good Fast and the Furious villain.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I could see him
We've all
in
seen
something
that
like
the video of him driving by on his little scooter, right?
Yes. Yeah. All right. So Tyler asked us, I'd be curious to hear y'all's thoughts about the concept of the hat trick and why that is such a big milestone. Paul, why is it is an arbitrary number. Why is 3 so much like what about 4?
Yeah, I don't know. There is some history behind the hat
I
trick.
did look it up.
Yeah. Okay.
Of course you did.
Of course I did. So it actually comes from cricket, so it means that I can't really adequately explain it.
Okay.
But basically in 1858, someone took 3 wickets with consecutive deliveries. So that means something. Fans apparently held a collection for him, H. Stevenson, and presented him with a hat bought with the proceeds.
Oh,
As a much like we're going to do with a cowboy hat.
that's right. What kind of hat would we buy for Cunha if we did this?
Yeah.
What kind of hat would be bought for Cunha? Would it be like a top hat or a bowler cap or just a
Ooh.
Wolves?
I could see him wearing a beret. I don't know why that just occurred to me, but
Oh.
I could see that.
Wow.
A beret.
Yeah. That's a good question. I
See,
don't know.
cowboy hat. I'd just go cowboy hat.
yeah, well, obviously.
I'll be going cowboy hat in Nashville.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, got to.
Be on Broadway.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Danny. Now we know about the concept of the hat trick.
Yeah, the more you know.
Charlotte Wolves. Gary O'Neill walks into the dressing room and says, "All right, boys, here's your new shorts. It's like an 80s style 3-inch inseam. Who is groaning? Who is psyched?" He also
Absolutely
provided a
groaning.
picture
Yeah.
of Steve Bull wearing some short shorts. So anyone you think is not into this or particularly is into this?
I
He's
bet
got leg
Lamina would be
tats.
down with the short shorts.
I was gonna say
That's-
we got some guys who don't skip leg day on our team. They're probably all here for it.
Well, some of those guys don't even have a choice. That whatever size shorts just look like short shorts on them. It was like when Adama was with us.
They couldn't fit around his leg. Like,
Yeah.
that's the problem. As far as they go.
Need custom
Yeah.
made.
I'll tell you who hates them though if they introduce the short shorts, and it's Tommy Doyle. Because he looks like a person who buys sunscreen in bulk. Let's just say that.
Probably Saw
Yeah.
does as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think under the radar to pull him off is actually Craig Dawson. Craig
Oh, yeah.
Dawson, he'd go like proper old school centre back and 2-footed challenges and everything wearing those.
He'd start to look like those guys from the 80s,
He
honestly.
would, yeah.
What I'd be curious about Huang, because Justin on an earlier thing, apparently Huang is like a big fashion
Oh yeah. He would
guru
wear 'em.
in Korea. So that would be fascinating to me.
And then he could start a trend.
Mhm.
Yeah, do that. I like it.
Nice. Okay, let's wrap with this one. And fitting that we wrap a Esfuerzo Wine segment with Matthew Kowalis one of their own over at Esfuerzo. Does Noah Lamina make any first team appearances this season? He was the only January signing in what was otherwise a very, very quiet window. Does anyone think that Mario's little bro is going to get into the team at any point?
Nope.
No.
But that's
Technically,
okay
there was
because I
one.
think Mario's going to sign an extension before the end of the year.
Yeah. Technically there was another signing, but it went under the radar because it was very much one for the under 23s. But Fletcher Holman, who came from the lower leagues, I think sort of because now Nathan Frazier has a almost permanent spot on the bench, so he's sort of a Nathan Frazier replacement for the under 23s. But I am really excited to see if we start to see Noah Lamina in an under 23s game, because usually those are available to watch, and I'd love to see it. But I expect we probably might start to see him on the bench at some point, but I'd be very surprised if he's getting on the field ahead of, Nathan Frazier or Tawanda Trewa or Enzo Gonzalez when he comes back.
Enzo Gonzalez and Noah Lamina in a Gary O'Neill attack is going to be interesting.
Let him cook, as the kids say.
Yeah. Yeah. Be interesting a few years from now, that's for sure. But they just don't have enough games, like they're in the too advanced a stage in the FA Cup. Like you can't,
Yeah.
And he was also playing the second tier of Italy, barely playing. Like you got to factor that in. So he's a project, but here for it. All right, that about wraps it for No Stupid Questions. Thanks again to everybody. Again, you can always write us WLW Pod on X, Twitter, whatever, and you could email us hello@wholelotofwolves.com. So that's how you get us. Keep it coming.
Okay, Justin, you're based in Nashville. FanFest gonna be there April 6th and 7th. TexFest is coming there on the road. Me and Paul are gonna be there. What are you planning for us? What's on the agenda?
I'm excited, man. It's going to be great. I'm super excited. I don't know. I'm working on it. I got a couple places I'm working on. I got some friends down in the Broadway-ish area with some stuff. So I'm trying to see what I can put together. So I've got a couple feelers out on that. And then we'll need to see agendas, how much people want to see of the town and other things surrounding the event too. So I'll try and put some fun stuff together, pull some folks in. So
should we block off Friday and Saturday night?
Yeah. If people are in town, I will certainly try and get folks together to do something. Being Broadway for the weekend, maybe try and hit something off Broadway at one of the other neighborhoods around town and stuff, and do something around there if people want to do that, and find a good spot to hang out, and then obviously all the fun stuff during the weekend with the matches. So,
who do you think out of the four of us, if all four of us are able to come, is going to get the most drunk, and why is it Dan?
I don't know. We'll try. I don't know. I haven't been around you guys enough yet to see. So, we'll certainly try.
I would venture to guess that Paul could, if he wanted, drink more than any of us, but I don't know that it would get him drunk. Like we're talking about an Englishman. He's also, what are you, like 6'6"?
Yeah, it's a little
Paul's lost a lot of weight, so he's lost some of his stamina there, I think.
Yeah, potentially. I used to be more like Hodor out of Game of Thrones, who could just throw it down and not realize. Now it's I don't want to test it to that extent. I might fall in the river or something.
I'm not gonna lie. The first eliminated out of your question was Paul, probably because he's an Englishman and he's 6'6". So yes, sorry the other three of you guys, but Paul was my first out on that. I can't pick besides that, but yeah.
Fair enough.
So now, yeah, glad to have everybody here. Be excited. So
yeah, we're looking forward to it.
Quick shout out. Seems we're talking about watch parties and all that fun stuff. If any are happening before this Saturday's game, then let us know and we'll circulate it across our channels. Like Charlotte Wolves, they've already organised a get-together that they're publicising. So if you're a listener in the Charlotte area, get in touch with them. They're getting together on Saturday. So with thanks to Danny on the socials, Alex producing, we're going to be back this time next week to go through everything, what happens against Brentford, and then preview a tricky away trip to Tottenham. So in the meantime, everybody, up the mighty Wolves.